Howdy, this is Ethelred, the worst Civ player on YouTube, and I think I said my name right that time. Anyway, I found out when I was studying for today's game that I've been saying my name wrong the entire time. It's not Ethelred, it's Ethelred. So, I think at least one person out there had thought I was saying it wrong. You are correct. I was wrong. It's Ethelred. So, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to try to plow through a bunch of history really fast. And we have right now set up an epic battle between the Vikings, who have stomped their way into England, and King Alfred the Great of Wessex. So, the Vikings. I'm going to talk a little bit about these guys. First off, they had a very stratified society. They believed that their gods, Thor, Odin, and Heimdallr, had given to them, created in the fabric of the world, a caste system of thralls, carls, and jarls. And thralls, by far, were the largest caste, and those were the slaves. And if they could get more slaves from someplace like England, great. So they're here to destroy, to pillage, to steal as much booty as they could, and to take back thralls to their homeland. They do write in runes. They do speak Old Norse. They do actually worship Thor and Odin and the rest of the Valhalla thing. So that's all factual Viking stuff. No, there were no dragons or anything like that, but I don't think anyone really thinks that the Vikings and dragons coexisted. So they were pretty much as fantasy as you can believably think that they were. Now, they're here destroying things. And who has come to the throne just as the Vikings are pouring over every place is this King Alfred. And he was a very contemplative, pious, retrospective kind of guy who felt the weight of the responsibility that was on him. All right, so with that said, no sooner does he come into power, but he has to bury his brother while the Vikings are destroying Mercia. And while he's away from his army burying his brother, they break into Wessex and they defeat Alfred's army at Wilton. So now they're in Wessex and there's no getting rid of them. So Alfred makes a tribute to them, trying to just buy a little time. Get out of Wessex. Here's all kinds of gold. Just get out of Wessex. Leave us alone for a little while. And the Vikings say, sure, we'll go finish pillaging the rest of England, and thank you for the gold. So they go pillage the rest of England, and especially the Vikings camp in London. So Alfred buys a little bit of time with this. Now in 876, the Vikings come back. And this time, they slip by Alfred's defenses, and they occupy the city called Wareham. So Alfred, he gets his army there, and he besieges the city. But he can't dislodge them. He can't get through the gate and destroy the Vikings. And the Vikings, likewise, can't get out, so they're kind of at a stalemate. So they make an agreement. And this time, Alfred says, all right, you need to leave Wessex. Like last time, only this time there's not going to be any tribute. You're just going to leave. And in fact, in order for me to have some collateral that you're going to do what I say, I want hostages. So the Vikings give him hostages, and they swear by Thor and Odin. They make the holiest of holy swears by their pagan gods. And Alfred, being a very pious guy, says, that's good enough for me. So he lets the Vikings out. What do the Vikings do? They immediately go run over, kill the hostages, and start hightailing it for the sea, where, unbeknownst to Alfred, there's this big Viking navy about to land to reinforce them. Well, this is where Alfred gets lucky. And you can't make this stuff up. A storm comes along right at this time and destroys the Viking navy. So these Vikings, they find themselves trapped in Wessex. So they, not knowing exactly what to do, they being the Vikings, they slip off to this place called Exeter. And Alfred chases them with his army. It's like, man, you guys, you were supposed to leave. You swore by the Holy of Holies, and you're still here. So he chases the Vikings, and then the Vikings chase him, and then he chases the Vikings, and it turns into kind of a goose chase through Wessex. And as winter gets close, Alfred says, you know what? I'm not going to chase these guys all over the countryside during the winter. So Alfred retreats to this place called Chippenham with his army, and they close the gates, and they're going to winter there. And the Vikings, they say, well, winter doesn't mean as much as to us as it does to you, apparently, because we're from the frozen north. We are Norse. And they besiege Chippenham with Alfred in it, and they are able to break through the gate. So they get into Chippenham, and Alfred has to retreat. So now the tables are like spinning. The tables have turned, the tables have turned, the tables have turned. Now Alfred is running from the Vikings in the winter, and he's just lost this battle at Chippenham. The Vikings pursue him into a marsh, a frozen marsh. And there Alfred winters, hiding from the Vikings with just his closest of allies there. And in this swamp, you see Alfred contemplate. He pulls into himself and he thinks about what has he done with his life? What are the responsibilities that he has to the English people? What has he done wrong? He's obviously done a lot wrong. What could he have done better? What will he do better next time? And he places his faith in God. And he transforms in the marsh, from this person who's always been kind of trying to catch up with events ever since he became king to a man with a plan. And him and his closest allies, those thanes who were with him in the marsh, they survived the marsh winter. And in the spring, at Easter time, he sends out messengers to every shire of Wessex, urging the people to rise up and to be ready for him to call at, what's the stone? Edmund's Stone or something like that. It was a famous meeting place in Wessex. Yeah, here Egbert's Stone. So at Easter, Alfred goes to Egbert's Stone and he blows on a horn, and all of the shires rise up, and this huge host appears out of nowhere of all the country folk of English. And with this new host of Englishmen, he marches on Chippenham where the Vikings are holed up, and he destroys the Vikings. And, well, let me just rewind about 30 seconds. He marches on Chippenham with his great host, and he lays siege to it. He doesn't destroy him. I would have liked that, but no. That's not how history went. So he lays siege to Chippenham, just like he laid siege to him last time. And again, he's not able to break the siege. He can't get into the city. But again, the Vikings can't get out of Chippenham. So, again, they make a deal. Now, you Vikings are going to leave. And I mean it this time. You're going to leave. And I'm not going to believe your pagan oaths. So you're going to convert. You're going to be baptized Christian, and I'm going to be your godfather. And the Vikings, I guess they were in pretty desperate straits. They agreed. So the Viking leader and his warriors who are all with him have to convert, get baptized, and they have to have King Alfred as their godfather. So he takes this patrimonial position, and he exiles them all from Wessex. He throws them all out. So, furthermore, he signs a treaty with the Vikings upon their exit from Wessex. Now, Wessex isn't just this little territory anymore. Wessex is now like half of all of England. So he really expands. He includes Mercia. He includes like Essex and Sussex and all these places. So Wessex is now huge, and you Vikings get out of Wessex. This huge area, you're out. So he gets peace. It's 880. That's where we are right now. Alfred rebuilds London because it was ransacked by the Vikings and the rest of England. And he sets into doing a whole bunch of really neat things. Like he spreads the rule of law, and he sets up an educational system so that people can learn. I don't know necessarily if he was trying to get literacy out to the masses, but he was certainly trying to educate the masses because he felt a religious responsibility to educate because he felt that the people cannot properly worship God if they are not wise enough to be able to comprehend God's universe. So the more you understand about the world, the better you'll be able to worship God. So he goes on this big education spree. He starts rebuilding infrastructure. He spreads the rule of law. He reforms the military into a professional mobile organization. He incorporates all of the lessons from what he learned fighting the Vikings into his new military. And he starts translating Latin documents into English documents, which it sounds mundane, but it was really earth-shaking. Because, again, he felt like these scholarly documents can't just be for the clergy in Latin. They need to be for the everyday Englishman. So he, in many cases, himself manually translates these documents from Latin into English. So that's 880, and England is getting upgraded. And we're going to start playing some Civ. Okay, goodness. And just like that, it's 890. I know we're going through this really dense period of history right now. It's because of the Vikings. We're going to heal this guy. We're going to sneak around here. And we're going to click next turn. In 890, the Vikings come back with 330 ships. They want their revenge against King Alfred. But Alfred, I'm telling you, this guy, he doesn't have the moniker the Great for nothing, because he reads it all. He sees the Vikings coming, and he says, I'm going to not only be ready for you, I'm going to position myself where I can monitor your every troop movement. And he sees them getting off the ships, and he sees them splitting into two armies, and he's like, aha, I know what you guys are doing. I'm a step ahead of you guys now. So he sends his son with an army, and he goes with an army, and both him and his son defeat the Vikings in both their battles. And let's see if we can get up here. The Vikings, not knowing what's hitting them from every side, losing these two major battles, all of a sudden, they jump on their longships and go hide in the River Thames, because these longships, they're low enough draft they can get into the rivers. So they think they're being very clever hiding in the River Thames. But again, Alfred is outmaneuvering them. And he comes over here and dams up the river. So he blockades it so they can't get out. And the Vikings realize that not only have they been defeated twice now, but they're trapped on the River Thames. So they try to escape to the north. They jump off their ships. They start running north with their women and their children because they brought settlers. And Alfred surrounds them and mows them down and takes prisoners. And that was the end of that invasion. Yeah. So, gosh, some turns have passed. That was 890. We're going to build one more farm. Then we're going to send this worker up here to start working on London. Meanwhile, I think I'm going to reinforce York, at least so we can garrison that guy and not spend so much time on him. We're going to bring this settler down here, and we're going to come meet him with the bowman, and we've got fish, and we are in negative happiness. Is there anything we can do about that? What is this? Oh, that's one turn until a great engineer is born. Not one turn until we have a great prophet. That's too bad. And we don't have enough faith to buy a pagoda. I don't think that there's anything we can do about this. Is there? Can we trade for chocolate? Let's trade. I'll offer you 3 horses and 3 gold per turn. You'll get as much as 4 out of me. Very good. Nice, so we're happy again. I wonder how many turns I didn't notice that. I hope it wasn't very many. And, you know, I would love to get the science and gold out of one of these trade deals, but I think that I'm going to send apples up to Hastings. so Hastings can grow, which is only going to worsen our happiness problem. But that's why we've got these temples coming online. The temples will help. And that helps that we just got global happiness. That was right here. Very nice. Okay. Good. Let's see if we can get up here to... I'm going to guess that there's... I'm guessing. I don't know. But I'm going to guess, just because I kind of figure how maps work in these games, that there's probably some kind of coastline that comes over to the Americas. So I'm going to try to circumnavigate via that. All right, so 930, there's a lot that's happened. In 896, Alfred, he decides, you know what would help me against the Vikings? I'm tired of reacting to the Vikings when they're already on my shores. I want a navy. So he starts designing ships because he's that smart. So he starts designing ships. He gets a navy, and straight away, with the few ships that he's got, he goes and encounters the next Viking raid just as they're about to land, and he destroys it. So now he's... Ooh, we can steal. Now he's destroying Vikings before they even land. That's how great Alfred is. All right. So we stole some technology, and we got a great person. All right, so the question for this great person is, where do we plant him? We could plant him. We got two things we could do here. We could either plant him at York and try to bring up our weak city, or we could plant him at London and make our strong city stronger. And it is our capital. You know, and this is what I'm thinking. If I were playing Liberty, I would move him out to York and try to, you know, on the theory of distributed production, try to make sure that all of my cities were equally okay at production. But since I'm going tradition, I'm going to centralize. And I'm going to put this guy like right here. So if you think that I could have done that better, let me know. Leave me a comment. We're going to go ahead and upgrade. We can start upgrading now that we have positive cash flow. Where's this barbarian? All right, so 930. Yeah. Alfred did one last thing before he died. He took Ina's law code and the law code of Offa, the Mercian king. From both of these kings were a little while ago. He takes their law codes and combines them and then streamlines them and updates them, and he implements that in a sweeping legal reform. So, I mean, this guy was epic. And then he dies. He had suffered a lifelong disease that they think was probably Crohn's disease, and that was probably the end of the little trireme right there. And that was also the end of Alfred. So his son, Edward the Elder, takes the throne, and Edward is also a great man, but in a slightly different vein. He's not quite as pious and religious and contemplative and scholarly, but he's still a really, really effective leader and a great, effective fellow. And yay, we got by him. That was nice. Nice to get by them. He's a great war leader, and he goes against the Vikings all through England, and he reclaims all of Mercia, all of East Anglia, and all of Essex, combining them all into Wessex. And in 920, by then, all of the Vikings south of the Humber had surrendered to Edward, and Wessex reigned supreme. In 924, though, Edward died, so the guy only ruled for like 14 years, and he was replaced with this guy named Ethelstan, who centralized the government of Wessex. As in 924, in 927, Ethelstan re-coronated himself, no longer the king of Wessex, but now, dun dun dun, the king of England. 939, Ethelstan died of natural causes, and he was succeeded by this guy named Edmund, who basically prioritized safe borders and good relations with Scotland. And on that note, I'm going to say about Scotland, I just want to point this out. Oh, that's cool. Scotland never fell to the Vikings. The Vikings tried, just like the Romans did. And just like the Romans, they lost. So Scotland stayed free and stayed independent. So if anyone Scottish is listening to this show, you guys have my eternal respect. No one could beat you, at least not so far. In 946, Edmund died when he was feasting. He was in this feast hall, and he's eating and drinking and having fun, and this lady, who was a known criminal, breaks in, and it's debated whether or not he saw her, recognized her, jumped up and attacked her, and she killed him, or if she just came up to him and stabbity, stabbity, stab, and he died. So anyway, that sounds like that was an assassination, and that was the end of Edmund. Who came after? Ethelred. And Ethelred ruled for about 9 years or so, which was, I didn't really take notes on it. I guess it was a mess. He must not have been able to get along with anybody. See, look, that's exactly what kind of thing I'm talking about right here. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I just got across to Alaska. Okay, 950, Ethelred died of digestive issues after having a long 9 years of quarreling with the nobility and with the clerics and all of that. So I guess it was just a mess. I really didn't take notes on it. 957, Eadwig, who had replaced him. Boy, talk about politics. It gets really ugly now. Ethelred gets caught by a bishop having relations with a woman that wasn't his wife. And the bishop decides to hold King Eadrig's feet to the fire. And in so doing, forces the king to denounce this woman as a strumpet. And the king really didn't want to denounce this lady. I guess he liked her. But he had to. Otherwise, he was going to have even more political problems. So he did. He denounced her. But then he hated this bishop so much that he raided his monastery. And that made all of the clergy really upset at Eadrig. So what did they do? But I've never heard of this before or since. They annulled the king's marriage on the grounds that he was married to someone who was too closely related to him. That's a dead end. That stinks. Alright, well, we'll come back and see if there's another way. Anyway, so it's just a bunch of bad blood now between the king and the nobility and the clergy. 959, after a bunch of political infighting, Eadwig died without any explanation. He was succeeded by a guy named Edgar the Peaceful. Edgar made peace not only with Scotland and the rest of the world, but also with the clergy and the nobility. And he implemented, thanks Edgar, the imperial system. Thanks to him, we got, pounds and ounces and all that. Thanks. Yeah, that's me being sarcastic. But anyway, it is what it is, and we've got it. And let's try to sneak. Oh, darn it. Darn! I hope he doesn't come over here. I agree. Let's work together. So, you know what I should try to do? I should try to get the Hanging Gardens. Yeah, that's awesome. And education. This is a good turn. Let's see if we can shoot and barrage. And now we're going to research. We're going to catch up a little bit. We're going to do engineering real fast. That'll be 4 turns. Man, this is taking forever to get this settler down here. I'm going to send him right here. Why is he going over to this hill? I don't think I like that. Okay, what's up here? Maybe we can get by up here. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's blocked off up here too. Alright, so let's try to start some wars, and then we'll do some more history. I really want you to go to war with Korea. I hate you. You suck. You're supposed to go to war with Korea. How about you? Korea? No? Who over here is powerful enough that they can do it? It really is you. Let's do it together. You suck. Alright, I'll try again in a few turns. 980. Edgar, after implementing the imperial system, died without any drama. He was succeeded by a guy named Edward. Edward was immediately murdered without having accomplished anything, and he was succeeded by... this turns into a real mess here. He was succeeded by Ethelred. Ethelred. That's me. That's who I took my name after. Ethelred. Alright, so this guy, first let me talk about his name. So if you play this game through to the end and you get your ranking at the end, you'll see that right at the bottom is Ethelred the Unready. And he got the moniker Unready actually because of a mistranslation of a pun. It's not that he was not prepared for something. It's that he was ill-advised, because you see there's this word in Old English called unread. Alright? Unread. And it sounds like Ethelred, which was his name. So this is the pun, right? Ethelred, unread. But unread, well, it doesn't mean unready. It means ill-advised. And it's especially funny because Ethelred means wisely advised. So what they meant when they called him Ethelred the Unread was the wisely counseled king who was actually really badly counseled. And that's very flattering. I don't know if he... Ethiopia wants to go to war with Arabia. They want me to do it with them. And I'm going to say yes, because you'll note that they are number 2 and 3 on the scoreboard. I want them to fight. And I don't really expect to have any conflict out of this. I mean, Arabia is far enough away that I don't expect to have any consequences for me doing this. So that means that my enemies are fighting one another, and that makes me happy. I just wish I could get somebody to fight Korea. Anyway, Ethelred the Unread, he starts paying tribute to the Danes. So a little bit has happened over in Denmark since Alfred kicked them out. First place, they're not Vikings anymore. Now they're the Danes. Kind of like these guys here aren't the Anglo-Saxons anymore. They're the English. And for some reason, politics in England has degenerated after Alfred's great rule, that now Ethelred is giving money to the Danes saying, please don't attack us. And actually the Danes were really kicking butt at this time. Not only were they managing their own kingdom, but they had conquered Normandy as well. So they had this little empire set up between Denmark and Normandy, and they're trying to make England a client state. Well, Ethelred thinks he can just keep paying them off. Excuse me, I need to think about this. We got a situation here, because we're going to get this settler down here, and he's going to start a city which is going to cause 4 unhappiness. It's going to take me to 0, and it's going to be 5 turns. In 5 turns, I need to find at least some happiness in order to prevent me from going... Oh, and in fact, in 5, there's 5. All right, so he's going to grow. I'm going to be a -1 when he settles because of the unhappiness from this population. So that means I need to find some happiness, and I got 5 turns to do it. Or I'm going to go unhappy. And the best I could do is 8 turns for a Colosseum. I'm gonna do that. So let's take a moment to just assess our citizen management. They're still working production. Yeah, that looks good. I don't have a problem with that, honestly. And you? I don't have a problem with that either. If I really wanted some more gold, I could move like this. I could undo this worker if I wanted to switch off production for 3 gold, but I think I would rather have the production, so we'll keep that too. And up here we are working. I'm okay with that too. So speaking of Hastings, let's check their production real fast. The market can probably wait. Oh, we're going to be done here in just a minute. So let me reprioritize this a little bit. I think that I'm going to go with a build order kind of like that. Yep, that. And York is just... It's just a terror. I just hate this city. There's nothing good to come out of York. I'm sorry if you live in York in real life. I don't mean York in real life. I mean this York. That York sucks. Alright, so I think we've got all of our production done. And Ethelred... I'm not going to be able to finish Ethelred in this episode. Is there any final words I want to say about Ethelred before we call it a night? He was ill-counseled. It's 1080. Let's try to catch up to 1000. So he doubles the amount of tribute he's paying to Denmark, and in 997, despite all of the tribute that Ethelred is paying to the Danes, they start raiding England's coasts, and they actually ravage Sussex, and that takes us up to 1080. So you've got my namesake running England and being an idiot about it and being a sissy and paying the Danes off, and the Danes are taking his money and still attacking. So we're going to quit right there. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, please click like, and if you didn't like it, please click dislike, because that way I can go back, and if I get a bunch of dislikes, I'll go look at the episode and think, what did I do wrong here? And if you want to hear more episodes like this, please click subscribe. So thank you very much. Have a great day.